Well, hello there. So, you want to be a drone pilot, do you? Well, firstly, I've got to say this. I'm not an experienced drone pilot with the drone that I've just purchased recently, last week. But I have flown drones before in the past, and I am an experienced RC helicopter pilot and fixed wing pilot. I was also club examiner and club instructor for helicopters. But as a new drone pilot, there's a few things that you need to know. If you don't follow the rules and regulations, you could end up in trouble, or you could end up in prison. So just bear that in mind. So anyway, I've taken some notes. So every now and again, I'm going to stop and refer back to my notes because it's quite important that I get this right. Now, firstly, the most likely drone that you're going to go and buy would be a small sub 250 gram drone. Now, there's normally two types of drone that size, and that will be one with a camera and one without a camera. So we'll just go through the rules for a drone without a camera. This is under 250 grams, so it'll be in the 249 gram class. So without a camera, you do not need an operator ID, you do not need a flyer ID, and you do not need insurance. So moving on to the next size drone, which is a 249 gram drone with a camera. Now this is when things start to get a bit tricky. You do need an operator ID. You can get this from the CAA website. I'll post a link to that in the description, so you can go and obtain your operator's ID. You'll also get yourself a flyer ID as well, which is not required. So let's have a look. Go back again to the 259 gram drone with a camera. You need an operator ID, you do not need a flyer ID, and you do not need insurance. Having said that, if you take photographs and you put them up on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, any social media, you'll need insurance, because these social media sites are commercial businesses, and you need insurance if you're going to take photographs for commercial purposes. So, and that unfortunately includes Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all those others, is in a commercial aspect. Right, now insurance wise, I get mine from the BMFA, and it costs £40 a year, and you're covered up to £25 million worth of liability insurance. So you can, there is another one out there. I know PGA Audits has advertised these FPV, I think it is, drone. Anyway, but so let's carry on reading these things. Right, so now to get your flyer ID, you go to the CAA website and you sit a test. They only pay at the end if you've actually passed, so you can take the test as many times as you like. Now they ask you 40 questions and you must get 30 right, so it's a 30-40 ratio, and it's quite easy. I actually sat mine and I got 29 out of 40 on my first go without actually studying. So I then went back and studied, and I got 39 out of 40. So it's quite easy to do. That will cost you £10 for your operator ID, and you'll also get a flyer ID as well for free. The flyer ID is free and it'll last 5 years, but your operator ID lasts a year. So that's some you have to pay a £10 on top every year to operate your drone. And of course, if you've got insurance, that comes up to £50 a year that you have to pay for your drone insurance and your ID. Yes, when you get your operator ID, you have to put your operator ID on the model. Yes, a bit of dymo tape or something like that with your number on it, somewhere visible on the outside of the aircraft. It could even be, I do believe you put it inside the battery bay if you wanted to, but there has to be on the model. It's got to be readily viewable. And that gets me on to another point, is that if you're asked to produce your operator ID, then the only time you really need to do that is when there's been an incident. In the same way as if you had a car accident, you exchange details for your for the insurance people, don't you? So, but the same thing applies to a drone. You don't have to give your operator ID until there's been an incident. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, so having read the drone code, which is part of the test that you've just taken, there's a few points here that you should really be aware of, and these points are: 1. The current endangerment regulation of the Air Navigation Order, Article 241, still applies, and it is an offence to endanger such property with an unmanned aircraft. 2. A person must not recklessly or negligently act in a manner likely to endanger an aircraft or a person in an aircraft. That's Article 240 of the Air Navigation Orders. Right, you mustn't fly over assembled peoples like a crowd, like at a football match. That's a no-no. And you must not intentionally fly over uninvolved people. Now, uninvolved people simply means anybody else that's not, it's you can fly over your friends and family, but if they're not part of your little group, then you can't fly over them. Alright, number 4 says that no flights within the restricted airspace. So now, if you go to Drone Assist, that's a map that gives you an app. An app that gives you a map of the local area, and it will show you coloured areas where you can't fly. Obviously, red is in a restricted zone. Yellow is slightly suspicious and may draw attention if you fly in that area. Yellow areas might include places like schools and other buildings like railway lines and things like that. So just bear that one in mind as well. And this is the important thing: an unmanned aircraft must always be flown in a visual line of sight to the observer at all times. So you can actually get someone to assist you there, somebody that can shout, "Oh yes, you're getting too close to a building." But one of the other things is that in the UK you cannot fly a drone by looking at your screen. You cannot fly a drone. You have to fly it with a visual line of sight at all times. But if you are looking at your flying screen to see how you're flying, a lot of people do it with the goggles, first person flight thing. You do have to have an observer who can see the model at all times. So you see on television these people flying their drones, and it will go up through a building and this, that and the other. Well, you can't do that in the UK because you're not flying in line of sight. So that starts to break the law. Anyway, so yeah, also one of the other things as well, if your drone is heavier than 20 kilograms, then it's compulsory that you have insurance. But all the time that you're flying locally and you're pretty certain you're not going to crash them, and you're not putting your pictures up on YouTube or whatever, then you don't need insurance. But I really, really recommend, I can't recommend highly enough that you get insurance, because all it's got to do is go and hit someone, that drone, and put them in hospital or cuts them or something like that. Then you're going to be in a world of hurt financially. Alright, anyway, so I digressed slightly there. Anyway, so that's all the legal stuff out the way. And of course, when you get your drone, what you have to remember is that it is a proper model aircraft. If you keep your drone pointing away from you at all times, that's the whatever it might be, the lights, it's quite it's quite difficult to tell which way round a drone is, because it looks identical, side on, rear view, front view, they're all the same. So it's quite important that you try and keep your drone pointing exactly away from you. That means that if you put your rudder, normally in your left hand, your rudder, so you have the rudder goes left and right, and the throttle goes up and down. So this controls your height, and this way spins the model around its vertical axis. Now, the other hand operates left, right, forwards and backwards. Now if you keep the drone model pointing away from you, left is still left, right is still right, and obviously backwards and forwards is still backwards and forwards. Now the trouble comes when you turn that model around and it's now pointing towards you. Left becomes right, right becomes left, and backwards and forwards is reversed. Same with the rudder. If you push the rudder to the right, the model will still continue to rotate anti-clockwise, or clockwise, sorry. If you push the rudder to the right, the model will turn in a clockwise direction, except of course when it's pointing at you, and it will start to go to the left. Because you put in a right signal, it's still turning clockwise, so it goes left. And that's something you have to be very mindful of. And this is when most people will tend to lose it a bit. Now on the Mini 2, the DJI Mini 2, I think if you just take your hands off the control, the model stops. So that's a good thing. And of course, if you've got your camera, you can look at the screen and you can see which way it's pointing. Normally on the little screen, if you just glance at it, you can see which way it's pointing. If it's not, then you just tap the stick in one direction and you'll see which way the screen moves. But I'm digressing a bit. It's probably best if I had the drone in front of me, but it's in there and it's not charged up. So and also I've just had my eyes tested, so I can't really see at the moment. But yeah, so that's the legal parts of flying a drone. If you do go out and get yourself a drone, just be aware that there are laws, there are regulations and rules, and I really advise that you get insurance as well, because you fly it over the house, you lose it, lands in the road, lands on a car in the road, that car crashes, and you're looking again at a whole world of hate. So just be careful, enjoy it, enjoy your drone, and well, let's see what turns up on YouTube. Anyway, that's enough. I've rambled on for quite a long time now, so hopefully we'll all get things right. Bye then.